A couple weeks back, the latest Ghostbusters film, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, dropped in theaters, so here's my ranking of all 5 Ghostbusters movies. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I talk about a bunch of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share your ranking of the 5 Ghostbusters movies. I have more rankings like this over on my channel. Be sure to check those out once this video is over. And if you enjoyed this video, click the like button and be sure to subscribe somewhere down here. It really does help a lot. With that said, let's just get straight into it. Easily in last place, Ghostbusters 2016. Now, this isn't even a particularly good remake in general. It's more like a reboot, and they gender swap the Ghostbusters. They try to add in some more fresh, clever comedy. They try to add in a different storyline, and it basically comes off as being an SNL skit of Ghostbusters stretched out to feature length. So what do you get? You get our 4 main Ghostbusters who have at some point been cast on SNL, and it just goes for some lowbrow humor that just doesn't feel as natural as it did in the original. What made the original's humor funny is that the characters were just sarcastic enough in their line delivery and everything that it ended up being funny and charming. Here, it just doesn't capture the tone, and it goes for that low-hanging SNL humor. And that's, to me, what removes the charm of the original Ghostbusters out of this movie. Because this movie just doesn't at all feel like a film in the same franchise as the other 4 films in the franchise. The antagonist plot, to me, is a bit too over the top and ludicrous, as he literally kills himself to be reanimated as a ghost. And simply put, I don't think our Lady Ghostbusters team have as well of a dynamic as our original Ghostbusters, for the obvious reason that they're just going for the SNL humor. So for me, this one as a Ghostbusters movie, it just isn't really good. I don't really enjoy it at all. Number 4 is going to be Ghostbusters 2, and this one is a really frustrating one because on the rewatch, I think I found myself enjoying it a bit more than I remembered. Whenever I first watched it, I went, okay, fine, kind of forgettable, and I never rewatched it since, until I was preparing to do this video and I rewatched through the entire franchise. And simply put, it's just fun to see the original Ghostbusters again. They still have their dynamic and their banter. It's still just fun to see them again in a Ghostbusters movie. But what this movie didn't have for me was a good enough story, and so sometimes it just ends up rehashing what was done so well in the first film. So this one kicks off, and like Ray and Winston are at birthday parties that they don't want to be at. The Ghostbusters business is failing, and it's kind of about restarting the business again, them coming back. It even has the same type of montage that the first film has, and so it just kind of is a rehash in some ways. From there, you just get this weird over-the-top plot for me about a painting and some slime that gets angry when you talk meanly to it. Like, that stuff just, that's the goofiest screwball stuff that I expect to find in an actual comedy, not natural like a Ghostbusters movie. And like, you get a bunch of new mythology about this evil painting and Dana's son, and I just didn't really care about any of it. It just wasn't nearly as memorable, not nearly as interesting, and it simply just didn't have the magic of the original. It didn't feel as natural as that film, and so for me, this one was a real kind of dud for me. Huge jump in quality here. 3rd place, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Now, what I really enjoyed about this film is that, unlike literally the other 4 films in this franchise, this one tried doing something new. So this is really, now that I think of it, the only movie in the franchise that's not really about starting the business, and it's not a rehash of Afterlife or the original Ghostbusters with Gozer and Zool. It's not about any of that. It did something new. It expanded on the mythology, has a new threat, which I didn't find as interesting, but it was still new, and there's just a bigger set of characters to have fun with. Of course, you got our cast of Afterlife coming back, you got our original Ghostbusters coming back, especially Ray and Winston, but even minor characters like Janine, Venkman, they're also fun to see back on the big screen. You also get Kumail Nanjiani and Patton Oswalt thrown in there just a little bit. They add some fun into the mix. It's still very funny at times. It still feels like a Ghostbusters movie, and it still maintains all the charm that the franchise was really good at having. I will say this about it, though. I didn't think it had as nearly as effective of a heart as Afterlife. What made Afterlife so good was that it was the most emotional Ghostbusters film we've ever had, and here, it's just not as effective. You could tell that they're trying to have it, but it's not nearly as good as it was before. Like I said, the plot itself isn't nearly as interesting as Gozer, but as somebody that's a big fan of the Ghostbusters franchise, and I love spending time with these characters, I have a lot of fun watching these movies, I got kind of what I wanted out of this film. Runner-up is going to be Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I think whenever this movie came out, or even whenever 2021 ended, I listed this down as my favorite movie of 2021. Now, with 3 years removed, I've had some time to think about things, and so when I sat down to rewatch this one, I'm just like, will this be as effective? But I stand by that. I think this is my favorite movie of 2021, and that's because it managed to have the Ghostbusters charm of the original film while also being the most emotional film in the franchise. It still has all the sarcasm, all the hijinks that comes with Ghostbusters, but it's also a film about parents trying to connect with their children and children trying to connect with their parents. You get two of these different kind of plot lines where you get Egon and Phoebe's mom. They've always struggled to connect with each other, and you also get Phoebe's mom and Phoebe herself, and that just brings some emotional resonance to the entire thing. And once you get to the last 10 minutes of the film, it gets really satisfying. Also, while it has kind of the same plot beats as the original, it's still about starting the business. It never feels like a copy. It never blatantly feels like it's copying, because you just get this new set of characters that I think are not nearly as good as the original, but they're still charming in their own right. And it just pays off elements of the original when it comes to like little lines of dialogue. And I thought that was just kind of clever.
Are you a god?
Ray? Oh, come on, Ray. Yes.
But really what elevates this one, like I said, is that emotional aspect of the film, where it's a film that, while it does have the fan service, it does have the hijinks, it also has a heart, and so this one is just super duper elevated because of that. But of course, in first place, the original Ghostbusters. This film is one of my top 3 favorite movies of all time, so it is safely in the first place. In fact, this is a movie I love so much that I have a poster hanging right there of the original Ghostbusters, and that's just how iconic this movie is. But what makes this movie so good is that it's just kind of one of these charming, special, perfect films. It's built off of an interesting concept in and of itself, where you get this group of scientists who go off hunting ghosts with all the hijinks that would ensue with that. And what brings it to life is the casting and the characters. It's filled with so many charming and funny characters all throughout the entire film, where you get, of course, Venkman Bill Murray, who is not funny, because he's trying to be funny, something that the 2016 film didn't understand, because the way he delivers his lines is just sarcastic enough that it ends up being funny. You also just get a great dynamic between these four characters, and throughout the film there are going to be iconic, memorable sequences, whether it comes to just Slimer in the hotel or the giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man at the very end.
Tried to think of the most harmless thing. Something I loved from my childhood. Mr. Stay Puft.
Nice thinking, Ray.
Nice 80s special effects, such an iconic score, and so this is a movie to me, it just has that 80s charm to it. It has the perfect casting, weird enough premise, these 80s practical effects. It's iconic, it's memorable, it can be funny, and it's not really a movie that has like big gigantic character arcs, but these are the types of movies that I like, where they're just these perfect movies, and especially from the 80s, where all the cast, the charm, the weirdness is all there. It's truly, to me, one of the greatest movies of all time. It is my favorite Ghostbusters movie. There you have it. That's my ranking of the Ghostbusters movies. Down below in the comment section, share your ranking over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end, and I will see you in the next one.